Welcome to the Pastor Chira Show. I'm Pastor Chira, and today we launch. We launch into new territory. We launch into new mindset. We launch into new relationships. Are you ready to launch out? Come on, launch out with me as we go into this conversation on today. And this conversation has been one that has been in the making for a little bit of time, just a little bit. But we have been thinking about, even in ministry that I'm doing and how it came to be, one of the things that was pressed upon me is legacy. And ensuring that the legacy of the ministry and the legacy of my father was kept. And that when things happen, the legacy continued. And this young man that is joining me on the Pastor Chira Show today has kind of the same mindset and the same trajectory, but I'm gonna let him tell you about it. I'm gonna let him tell you all about it. And his name is Bishop-Elect Hasan Urquhart. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Pastor Chira. Thank you for having me.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm just so happy to be here with you.
Listen, I'm excited about this conversation and what we're going to talk about. But before we get into that, how about you introduce yourself to the viewing audience?
Yes, my name is Bishop-Elect Hasan Urquhart. I am the pastor of Holy Temple Holiness Church. I've been pastoring the church for 11 years now.
Oh, wow.
I've been in the church since birth, literally since birth. I've never been in another church or a part of another church my entire life.
Oh, wow.
I have been married 19 going on 20 years to Christine Urquhart. We have two beautiful daughters. Siani and Chase. One is 22 and one is 15, and both of them crazy. And no, I love my family, and just God has been good, Pastor Chira. God has been good.
That is amazing. But wait,
Yes.
Passing 11, married 19, but
Yep,
you only
going on
22. You only 22. What you talk about? You was 22.
Thank you, Pastor Chira. Thank you so much. I need your cash app. I know I don't look like it, but we'll be married. We'll be celebrating 20 years next year. To God be the glory.
Wow.
To God be the glory.
Awesome. Listen, some don't make it. Some don't make it too. You going to 20?
Yes. Yeah. And I'm grateful. And ain't nothing but the grace of God. So I'm grateful of that. But God has been holding us together. God has been blessing us. So I'm grateful.
Yeah.
I'm grateful.
Because it takes him, especially in marriage. It takes him.
And him, and then him some more. Amen.
And then a sprinkle more, just a sprinkle more.
Yeah,
we need to sprinkle more.
Yeah. God is good.
So you were born into Holy Temple. So you were born into the church, and you've never been you said you've never been anywhere else? You've always been at Holy Temple?
I've been at Holy Temple my complete entire life. Literally.
Really?
They joke about how my mother brought me that first Sunday she came home. I've been in my church my entire life, and I've matriculated through. They let me do everything, Pastor Chira, but sing. They won't let me sing. I can't get them to let me sing. But I've done pretty much everything else.
You got a handle? You got the handle to hold the note? Can you hold the note?
No, I left the handle home. I'm had to go get it.
That's probably that's probably why. Yeah.
That's probably why. Yeah.
They said go get the handle. Go get the handle.
Yeah. But I've been there. Yep, I've been there since birth. I have served in every capacity. I was a custodian, a sound guide, a van driver, deacon, ordained deacon, a minister, youth pastor, elder, assistant pastor, and then I became a pastor. I actually was a part. You know what, Pastor Chira? Fun fact: I was a part of when we built the church in 2001.
Uh-huh.
Part of the agreement was to hire some of the young men out of the church, and I was one of the young men. So I actually helped physically build the church, the whole
With your
outer shell
hands.
of Holy with hands. Yep.
Are
They
you
so that
serious?
was a part of the agreement. So I was a part of the. I was 19 years old, and I was a part of the groundbreaking between Pop and the construction company. Yeah. So I have a lot of
Wow.
history. A lot of history.
That's amazing. So that is a lot of history. And that means a lot because you're not just there to be there. You
Right.
have blood, sweat, and tears, literally, in
Yes.
this ministry. And
Right.
what does it really mean for you, to be a part of this historic ministry within Philadelphia, Pennsylvania? Because it is a historic ministry within Philadelphia.
Yeah. Yes. You know, Pastor Chira will be 85 years old next year.
Wow.
Um, and to answer your question, it means everything to me because it was my church before I ever knew I would be a pastor. And when I don't mean it possessively, but I mean that's my church. That's my church home. I love the church. I was born and raised there. I served under all four pastors, all three pastors that were there ahead of me. Um, and it just means everything to do my best to hold up the legacy, to do my best to keep things going. And so it was kind of trying, but things are coming along.
So who were the pastors before you?
Okay, so the founding pastor was my great grandfather,
Okay.
Elder Ernest Urquhart,
Okay.
and he had started the church in Virginia, and then they moved to Philadelphia. The church was opened in 1938. They moved to Philadelphia on Ridge Avenue, and they were on Ridge Avenue. They had two stops on Ridge Avenue, and they were there. Pop carried the ministry. Bishop, excuse me, I call him Pop
Right,
affectionately,
right.
but Bishop
Listen, it was your
Abraham
great
Urquhart.
grandfather. What you gonna say?
Yeah, yes. So, so Elder Ernest Urquhart started the church. Pop took it over. Pop had the longest tenure.
Okay.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he was pastor for 55 years.
Oh my
And
goodness.
then he had stepped down. Bishop Elwin Urquhart then came on, and he was pastor, and he pastored for 3 years. He took sick and got ill. Pop came out of his emeritus status and began to lead again for a short time.
Right.
Unfortunately, we lost Bishop Elwin in that time,
Yeah.
and then Pop was looking, knowing that he was not able physically, to carry on the way that he once did. So he was looking for a pastor, and so they had made my cousin, Apostle J. Sean Urquhart, the pastor, and he served. He served also for 5 years, and then when at his fifth year, and then I became the pastor after that in 2011. I served as an interim for 1 year, then I was installed in 12. There's a
You
lot of
know
history.
the history.
Yes.
Because
When
you were
it's your
there through it
life,
all.
you know it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, because I remember Bishop Owen,
Yes.
and your grand. I remember all of them. So, like I told you, my family and your family, actually my father and Bishop Elwin and Felicia and all of them, like they were tight and sang and did
Wow.
choirs together and did different things together. So
hmm
that history and holding on to legacy is something that I honor. I truly honor.
Yeah.
But you said something in giving the steps of the leadership. You said that Bishop Emeritus came back
hmm
to do the
Yes.
work, but it
hmm
sounds like they were always looking for who's up next.
Right.
What did the who's up next look like for the transition of who was up next? How did that happen?
Okay, so, all those years we were there, Pop was our pastor, he was our leader, and Bishop Elwin Urquhart, who is his son, he served as the assistant pastor for many years, well above 20 years. And so presumably we all thinking he's next. So he was next. And then at that time, once he did become the senior pastor and Pop retired, he served 3 years and then he got sick. He had an eruption of his appendix, and just things just kind of got worse. And unfortunately, we lost him. And then Pop came back, and when he came back, he was then trying to figure out which way he was going to go.
Right.
And then, thank God, Apostle J. Sean was able to come back and lead us for the next few years as well. So I still can't tell you how I got in the mix.
Right.
But
That's what I said.
I had the privilege, Pastor Chira, of serving all of them. I was a junior adjutant to Bishop Abraham Urquhart, and I was a chief armor bearer for Bishop Elwin, and then I served Apostle J. Sean Urquhart as his assistant pastor.
So you did this, but what I'm hearing and what I love that I'm hearing is succession was always in the plan. Holy Temple always had succession in their plan. And we're going to go to a commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about the succession of Holy Temple and what that looks like and how we did that and how the succession is coming around for you as Bishop-Elect. So we're going to go to a commercial and we will be right back. We're back, and we're back with Bishop-Elect Hasan Urquhart. And before we went into our commercial, we were talking about succession and how the succession of the church got to you. But is succession a part of the plan of Holy Temple? Because it looks like, it seems like succession is what each leader looked at, each pastor, each senior pastor looked for. They looked for who was next. How did you become who's next?
Well, we started out with a good plan. It was going, like I said before, it was going from Bishop Abraham Urquhart down to Bishop Elwin Urquhart, and then to his grandson, Apostle J. Sean Urquhart. And so I don't know if I was a part of the succession plan, but I may have been a part of God's plan. So here I am. I look up and I have this church in my lap and asked to move forward and to carry the legacy on.
So now you're a part of God's plan. So what does God's plan look like for you?
Well, Pastor Chira, it was challenging in the beginning because you're trying to figure it out. And one of the craziest things that I went through with trying to figure it out, because it was so much legacy and it was because of so much undue pressure, and that in the very beginning, you felt a lot of pressure. And it could have just been me, but I felt a lot of pressure. And then my life was spinning. I mean, everything was going so fast. And the crazy thing was that everybody saw and was able to have a opinion on the spinning, but nobody could discern that they had an opinion on the fact that I was being dizzy, but nobody could see me spinning. Nobody could see and discern that life was spinning. But all they could do was see that I was being dizzy or not making all the greatest moves because you were so new and trying to figure it all out.
Right.
And it was kind of tough.
Yeah. How did you figure it out? Like, how did you, because I'm there with the spin, and I don't know that anybody sees me spinning, but they just see me dizzy, and they're like, what are you doing? Like, why are you, and who, And who told you? Nobody.
Yeah.
I haven't done this before. I don't know what I'm
Right.
doing. Like, I just know that this is what God said, and I'm trying to do what He said, and I don't know. How did you figure it out? Like, how did you figure it out?
So you're assuming that I figured it out.
Oh, my
Okay.
fault.
No,
My bad. Sorry.
no, I got you, but Pastor Chira, and not to sound ultra deep and churchy, but I was praying one day, and I was like, God, I'm going through all these things. I didn't understand what was going on, and He told me that He would be my experience, that I had to learn how to lean on Him.
Wow.
And He started chastising me for every little thing. I told you to go. I told you to stop. I told you to this. I told you to that. And He would slow me down. If I have a quick minute for a story,
Go.
I can give you a story. So when I became the pastor, I know that the Spirit of the Lord told me to shut some things down and slow down, get some things under control. And I had somebody come to me and say, hey, we got this set up already, and we have this going on, and we got to do this outreach, and we got to reach out to the people. But I heard God say, no, cut it down for the whole summer. Get your footing together. And I listened to the person. I listened to the people, right? It ended up being the worst event we could have ever had. And I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? So here's my learning. So now here comes the Spirit of the Lord again, and He's tapping my shoulder and said, I told you what to do. You can never let nobody override my word. And then He taught me a lesson. This was the lesson. And then He said, and so you know how we try to get ultra deep on God. You know how we get, we had to go out and evangelize, and we had to go out and get the people. And He told me, He said, I have 7. He said, you don't think that I know that the evangelism is needed or necessary? He said, I have 7,000 that didn't bow the bell. In other words, He was saying to me, glory to God, that you are not the only person I could use. I don't need you to tell me what needs to be done. I need you to obey me so I can show you how to get through this. And that was my first lesson. But what's so beautiful about that, it was that the love of God shined through it, that it wasn't just a whooping, but it was a lesson in the midst of it. And it definitely was a smack on the wrist, but He was also teaching me to learn His voice in the same time. And so, so through those experiences, it helped me be to where I am now. I'm gonna tell you something. I've been pastoring for about maybe 10, 11 years now. I'm gonna tell you something, Pastor Chira. I feel like I just stopped spinning maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
Right.
I really feel like I just got a grip on what pastoring really is. So I always try to encourage young pastors or young people that's coming up. Take your time.
Yeah.
Take your time.
Right.
Take your time. Get that clock out your head.
Right, because it's not. It takes time. It's a process.
Yeah.
And we all have to go through the process that God has taken us through, and not what we think or what we see we should be doing. It's about what He tells us. And we just, honestly, am I correct that pastoring is really about being obedient to the voice of the Lord, following that, and the people following you as you follow Christ and being obedient? Would I be right in that?
I think so. But I think that one of the challenging parts to add to that is that you have to be His love in action. And sometimes that can be difficult because, we feel those wounds, because wounds come from love. The old saying is pain is love, and so we have to deal with that. And those wounds are very real.
Yeah.
They are not symbolic. They are not metaphorical. They are real.
Right.
And we have to still exemplify His love. And so we got to learn how to be repaired. We got to learn what it means to get repaired. We are not, because if we don't get prepared, we can become bitter. And then if we become bitter, we can become too bitter to be blessed.
Yes.
And that's the last thing we want to do, is that when He decides to show up, we're too hardened to receive.
Yeah. God, make my heart flesh again. Make my heart flesh again. Yeah.
Make it flesh again. He said, the day that you hear my voice, harden not your hearts. And sometimes it is a greater challenge than we give it credit to sometimes.
And we do.
And so I
And
tell people, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Pastor.
no, you tell people all the time.
I was going to say, add to that very quickly, that I try to share with younger pastors that patience is not a curse word. Just learning how to wait and to be patient, because this thing called pastoring is very real, is very serious. And the emotional side of it is very intrusive.
Yes.
And it tries to jump in, and it tries to answer spiritual questions that it has no business in the conversation of. Because our emotions are temporal, but we have to make sure that we stay lined up spiritually with God, because he doesn't deal on the surface. He deals at the root of problems.
So we were talking, and I see that you have Bishop-Elect on your name. And I'm like, I'm so used to seeing Bishop Designate. So what is the difference between a Bishop Designate and a Bishop-Elect? What's the difference?
Well, from what I was told, Pastor Chira,
Okay.
there's a lot of people back and forth. One may say this, one may say that, but normally a bishop designate is one that was going out to be a prelate or primate, the one that would start his own fellowship immediately. And the elect bishop is one who may serve in a fellowship or under a prelate.
Right.
And so I plan to serve under my apostle, and then eventually, go and do whatever it is that God may have for me to do. But I didn't want to go straight out and do that.
So you want to learn. You're still in this. Yeah.
Pastor has taught me a valuable lesson. Let me tell you something. I have learned to, from the pew, you'll say, I'll never do this and I'll never do that. But once you get to the stage, you'll visit Neverland.
Yes, you do.
Yourself in Neverland. So I've learned from that, and I've learned to try to take my time and take the necessary steps that it takes, because people's lives are in what we do, what we say, and how we are. And so that matters. So I want to take my time.
But in staying in this work, have you found yourself remaining traditional or foundational? And what do you see the differences are?
I believe that I remain foundational, and I honor the tradition. That has helped me institute new methodologies. I think a lot of times pastors who are like us, who have legacy, or who has inherited, and they're not a planter, that they try to make too many changes too quick. And I think that sometimes you are dishonoring what people have worked for. So I've taken my time to, instead of me trying to reinvent the wheel, I use that. I stand on their shoulders. I honor what they've done. And I continuously remind the people that it's because of their shoulders that I can stand on, which makes me see what I see.
Thank you.
And I have I don't have that normal testimony everybody has. You know how many people came to me and told me how it was going to be hard and difficult, and people just say things, but I didn't have that.
No.
I didn't have that. But I want to say this: if there's a pastor listening, don't be quick to take that rock and discard it.
Don't.
That's the problem. I think the problem is we're so quick to put our stamp on it.
Right.
But you move the rock out, like you said, all the indentations. You can put that same rock back on the wheel, and make that rock over,
smooth.
And it'll still be smooth. Yes, ma'am. It'll still be smooth.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Listen, can you tell us when your services, where it's going to be, and how we can keep in and stay in touch with you?
So the service is going to be October the 22nd, 2020. That's a Saturday. It's going to take place at Holy Temple Holiness Church, which is located at 2240-44 North 29th Street at the intersection of 29th and Dolphin. It's going to begin at 12 o'clock. We're asking that any and all that's able to come and celebrate with us, we ask you to please come. If you're not able to, please keep us in your prayers.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
And how can they be in touch with you if they just want to reach out and bless you? How can they be in touch with you?
So my church is on social media
Okay.
under Holy Temple, so they can follow us there and get in touch with us there. I'm a full-time pastor, so I'm always at the church. I can
Right.
get in touch there, and I believe that's pretty much it.
Okay. All right. Well, that's what we're going to do. So we're going to do two things. We're going to make sure that everybody knows to reach out to you at Holy Temple, and we're going to make sure that we are there in order to support you in this next move that God has you transitioning into. I want to thank you so much for being on the Pastor Chira Show tonight, and today, I should say. Thank you so much for being on the Pastor Chira Show and having this candid conversation about legacy and how we continue in the legacy, not being traditional, but being foundational. I thank you. God bless you, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you so much, Pastor Chira. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Listen, that was Bishop-Elect Hasan Urquhart, and I hope that you were blessed by this conversation because I was. Listen, you never know what's going to come out of a candid conversation with Pastor Chira, but you can best believe that you're going to get something that you need in order to take you to your next place. I'm Pastor Chira. This is the Pastor Chira Show, and I'll see you next week. God bless. Coming up on the Pastor Chira Show. No, my voice is gone. It's okay though, because I was not doing anything to not have this candid conversation with this phenomenal young woman who I have had the pleasure of being in her presence. And I did not know that I would become a fan. I am. I'm a whole fan. I'm a whole fan. And I think you will be too. And I'm talking about none other than Christian McGinnis. Yes! I'm so excited. Hi, lady.
Pastor Chira, I love you. Oh my gosh, you're so funny. I just think about the first day we met at Lindenwood. You know, you go to